So
It's being live streamed.
Fort Edward,
We're here. It's just myself and 2 board members.
and who are the board members? Tim and who?
Nope, it's Kim Collier
Okay,
and Jeannie Mullen.
okay, thank you.
Yep.
And Whitehall, we have Julie Egan, Stephanie Stafka, and John Roselle. And I'm in Whitehall for the record. Hartford,
And a half supervisor is the only one public, but this is DA court night and I have a crowded room next door if you want me to bring them in.
Yes.
no thanks. Putnam,
Thank you, Dave. Town of Putnam present, full board members, myself, Charlie Bain, Larry Shield, Carol Schneider, Chris Mallon. Also in attendance, we have 7 public members, John LaPointe, Mary Jane Dietrich, Bonnie Shealy, Art Shealy, Ken Corney, I probably pronounced that name wrong, I'm sorry. David Hayes, and Darlene Kerr, town clerk.
thank you, Daryl. Kingsbury,
Dave, it's just me here tonight for this historic event.
okay. It's being synchronized, isn't it? Fort Ann,
You have myself, Sam Hall, Deb Witherall, Christian Stark, George Smith, Jeff Meyer,
okay. And in Putnam,
Dave, you already asked Putnam. You mean Dresden?
Dresden, I'm sorry.
Dresden, we have Councilman John Barber, Councilman Al Wilbur, and Town Clerk Marcy Wilbur, Councilman Ed Raymond, and Councilman Pat Greeno, and myself, Paul Ferguson.
Okay, thank you. I will take a second to introduce players in the IDA and associated in TDI. We have Joe Scott, who is counsel for IDA. We have Carol Elias, attorney for IDA. We have Todd Singer from TDI/CHPE, and Josh Bagnato, who's been our main contact through the process. You'll hear from those 2 a little bit later. And I see Pete Swartz, who is counsel for TDI. So as long as we're here, we'll all get started. Good evening. My name is David O'Brien. I'm the chairman of the counties of Warren and Washington Industrial Development Agency, the agency. And I'm acting as a public hearing officer in connection with the proposed project was the subject of this public hearing. Let's first begin by having Ms. Allie Weaver, Office Administrator of the agency, read the public hearing notice.
Notice is hereby given by the counties of Warren and Washington Industrial Development Agency that a public hearing pursuant to section 859-A of the General Municipal Law of the State of New York will be held by the agency on the 8th day of July, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. local time in connection with the CHPE LLC project as described below at the following multiple meeting locations: Town of Putnam's Town Hall, Town of Dresden's Town Hall, Town of Whitehall's Town Hall, Town of Fort Ann's Town Hall, Town of Hartford's Town Hall, Town of Kingsbury's Town Hall, and the Town of Fort Edward's Town Hall. Comments may also be submitted to the agency in writing or electronically. Minutes of the public hearing will be transcribed and posted on the agency's website. CHPE LLC, a New York State limited liability company, submitted an application to the agency, a copy of which application is on file at the office of the agency, which application requested that the agency consider undertaking a project for the benefit of the company. Said project consisting of the following: the acquisition of an interest in the company's interest in certain upland parcels of land and in the company's interim permit and easement issued or to be issued by the State of New York Office of General Services in relation to submerged state-owned land, such upland and submerged lands located in the towns of Putnam, Dresden, Whitehall, Fort Anne, Hartford, Kingsbury, and Fort Edward, and villages of Whitehall, Fort Anne, and Fort Edward, Washington County, New York. The construction, installation, and equipping on or under the land of is fully buried up to 1,250 megawatt high voltage direct current electric transmission line and related infrastructure, and the acquisition and installation thereon and therein of certain related machinery and equipment, including but not limited to 2 5-inch diameter HVDC transmission cables, all of the foregoing to be used and operated by the company as a portion of an electric power transmission line from the US Canadian border to New York City. The granting of certain financial assistance within the meaning of section 854.14 of the Act with respect to the foregoing, including potential exemptions from certain sales and use taxes, real property taxes, real estate transfer taxes, and mortgage recording taxes, and the lease of the project facility to the company or such other person as may be designated by the company and agreed upon by the agency. The agency is considering whether to undertake the project and to provide certain exemptions from taxation with respect to the project, including exemption from mortgage recording taxes with respect to any documents, if any, recorded by the agency with respect to the project in the office of the County Clerk of Washington County, New York, or elsewhere. Exemption from transfer taxes on any real estate transfers, if any, with respect to the project. Exemption from sales taxes relating to acquisition, construction, equipping, and installation of the project facility. And in the event that the project facility would be subject to real property taxation if owned by the company, but shall be deemed exempt from real property taxation due to the involvement of the agency therewith. Exemption from real property taxes, but not including special assessments and special ad valorem levies, if any, with respect to the project facility, subject to the obligation of the company to make payments in lieu of taxes with respect to the project facility. If any portion of the financial assistance to be granted by the agency with respect to the project is not consistent with the agency's uniform tax exemption policy, the agency will follow the procedures for deviation from such policy set forth in section 874.4 of the Act prior to granting such portion of the financial assistance. If the agency determines to proceed with the project facility will be acquired, constructed, equipped, and installed by the agency and will be released by the agency to the company or its designee pursuant to a lease agreement requiring the company or its designee to make certain payments to the agency and consistent with the project agreement regarding the terms of the granting by the agency of the financial assistance to the company. The agency has not yet made a determination pursuant to Article 8 of the Environmental Conservation Law regarding the potential environmental impact of the project. The agency will, at said time and place, hear all persons with views on either the location and nature of the proposed project or the financial assistance being contemplated by the agency in connection with the proposed project. A copy of the application filed by the company with the agency with respect to the project, including an analysis of the costs and benefits of the project, is available for public inspection during business hours at the offices of the agency. A transcript or summary report of the hearing will be made available to the members of the agency. Additional information can be obtained from, and written requests may be addressed to, Dave O'Brien, Chairman, Counties of Warren and Washington Industrial Development Agency, 5 Warren Street, Suite 210, Glens Falls, New York, 12801. Telephone number at the office is 518-792-1312, and electronically at info@warren-washingtonida.com.
Thank you very much, Ally. You did a nice job. Continuing on, legal authorization empowers the agency. I would request that any comments or questions be delayed until the public comment session. At that time, comments will be limited to 3 minutes each. And if someone has already made the same comments, please make sure to take that note. Today, I'm holding this public hearing to allow citizens to make a statement for the record relating to the involvement of the agency with the project, the proposed project, for the benefit of CHPE LLC, a New York State limited liability company, the company. I intend to provide general information on the agency's general authority and public purpose to provide assistance to this proposed project. I will then open the comment period to receive comments from all present who wish to comment on either the proposed project or the financial assistance contemplated by the agency with respect to the proposed project. The provisions of Chapter 1030 of Laws of 1969 of New York, constituting Title I of Article 18A of the General Municipal Law, Chapter 24 of the Consolidated Laws of New York as amended, and Chapter 862 of the 1971 Laws of New York as amended, codified as Section 890-C of said General Municipal Law, collectively the Act. Authorize the agency to promote, develop, encourage, and assist in the acquiring, construction, reconstructing, improving, maintaining, and equipping and furnishing of manufacturing, warehousing, research, commercial, and industrial facilities, among others. Pursuant to Section 859A2 of the General Municipal Law of the State of New York, the Act, prior to the agency providing any financial assistance as defined in the Act of more than $100,000 to any project, the agency, among other things, must hold a public hearing pursuant to Section 859A of the Act with respect to said project. Since the proposed financial assistance to be provided by the agency with respect to the proposed project may exceed $100,000, the agency must hold a public hearing on the nature and location of the project facility and the proposed financial assistance to be provided by the agency with respect to this proposed project. The financial assistance being considered by the agency in connection with the proposed project is the potential exemptions from certain sales and use tax, real property taxes, real estate transfer taxes, and mortgage recording taxes, collectively the financial assistance. In connection with the granting of the financial assistance, the company will enter into certain payments in lieu of tax agreements and host community benefit agreements, under which the company will make certain payments for the benefit of Washington County, the towns of Putnam, Dresden, Whitehall, Fort Anne, Hartford, Kingsbury, and Fort Edward, the villages of Whitehall, Fort Anne, and Fort Edward, and the Putnam Central School District, Whitehall Central School District, Hudson Falls Central School District, Hartford Central School District, Fort Edward Central School District, and Fort Anne Central School District. Copies of a spreadsheet describing such payments can be found on the agency's website. The comments received today at this public hearing will be presented to the members of the agency at or prior to the meeting, at which members of the agency will consider whether to approve the undertaking this proposed project by the agency and the granting by the agency of the financial assistance with respect to the proposed project. The notice of this public hearing indicated that written comments could be addressed to the chairman of the agency. No written comments have been received by the agency prior to this public hearing. I will now introduce Josh Bagnato of the company, who will describe the proposed project in further detail. Josh, take it away.
Thanks very much, Dave, and thank you everybody for taking the time tonight to be attending this hearing. I see some familiar faces and some familiar town halls, so for those I've met before, nice to see you again. Those who are meeting for the first time, nice to meet you via Zoom. I'll be brief because I think Ally did a very good job of reviewing the project, and I think many people at this hearing have heard of this description before. So just to emphasize, CHP is a 339-mile, fully buried, 1,250 megawatt high voltage DC transmission line proposed to move renewable energy from Quebec and also potentially upstate New York into New York City, a part of New York that is really dominated by fossil fuel generation, and a part of New York that state law is trying to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from. So our project aims to bring renewable energy into the city, and of course is proposed through Washington County. Specifically in Washington County, it's proposed to be buried underground for 41 miles. 6 of those miles are in Lake Champlain. It comes on land in Washington County at Putnam Station, travels along town and county roads to Route 22, goes down Route 22 until the village of Whitehall, and then is basically on the Canadian Pacific Railway until it crosses the Hudson River past the village of Fort Edward, excuse me. Currently, the project is, we're now planning for a construction start in spring of 2022 and an operational date of 2025. Construction within Washington County will likely only be limited to 1 or 2 seasons. And the details of the construction and the timing and when it will start and where it will end are not finalized now, but will be, and they will be communicated to the various towns and counties. Just in terms of our impacts, there's obviously a temporary construction impact associated with the project, which I just described, but there are no municipal or school district services required or additional since the cable will be buried. And then basically it's not seen. So once the construction is completed, the site is restored, and really the cable should be operational for 60+ years. So that's the project we're proposing. I hope, Dave, that was enough and not too much. And so that's what I wanted to provide as an overview of the project. I guess before I turn it back to you, Dave, Todd, is there anything additional you'd like to add?
No, I think that's a good summary, and happy to answer questions folks may have.
So as Josh indicated, it's a very large project. There are 15 counties which this is going through. 5 of the counties are subterranean. The balance are going through submarine. So Washington County is probably one of the most affected. It has, what did I figure, a little over 13% of the entire line in Washington County and 42 miles in the ground, roughly. So it's a big project. This has been started in 2013. I think we first started talking about this, and finally it's getting to the point. I want to make sure that people understand that this is not 100% done, because they are in a bidding process through NYSERDA. There are 4 companies bidding for this. Of the 4 projects, if Josh wants to correct me, TDI or CHP is the only one that's fully permitted, ready to put the shovel in the ground. And as soon as they get the approvals in, hopefully this quarter, 3rd quarter, by September, they'll be ready to roll. And because this is an important project to everyone, they are looking to get all the approvals done, all the financials done of the pilots with all the 15 counties to get this done so they can move forward as quickly as possible. They have a huge investment in time and energy and effort in this. To say nothing, probably a couple dollars invested, but that's why it's important. And I think that as the agency reviewed this, there are very definite benefits to providing a pilot. And one is consistency for for the company. Second is certainty of tax revenue for the counties, especially in Washington County. So that was one of the biggest factors in the agency's decision in looking at this. So I will now open the public hearing to the floor for comments. I want to hear everyone. I want to make sure that everyone will be heard. I know this is a little bit different than most public hearings. Zoom opened up a whole new world. We will try and get a hold of you. I will give you a phone number. This is my cell phone number of 518-866-1022. If someone has a comment is not being recognized, please text me and I will notice that and recognize you. I'll get a lot of assistance from Ally and the 7 other hearing officers. Each town has a hearing officer as required by law. I am the chief hearing officer, so running the show. So I want to make sure you understand that. If anyone makes rude gestures, comments to anyone, we ask that you handle this in respect. If you don't, I will shut you off. This is for respectful comment. We want to hear what you have to say, but please don't make this attack. We've had that experience in Zoom meetings before, so we can mute you. I just want to make sure you understand that. Please respect people as I expect everyone else to respect others in this group. So I will now open the public for public comment at 6:53 p.m. If you want to make a comment, please raise your hand and I will call on you. Please wait to be recognized. Once recognized, please stand and state your name and address for the record. We must have your name and address for the record, so please remember that. Okay. Who wants to start?
Putnam has a resident for comment.
Okay,
Can you hear me, Mayor?
I can hear you.
Thank you. My name is Bert Windle. I live on Sagamore Road in the town of Putnam. I've been a resident here for 30 years. I've watched New York City being proposed as a major benefactor in this project. I sort of, maybe I don't have a proper understanding, but I didn't see exactly where the benefit was coming from my town that I'm living in now. I heard you say that there was tax benefits for the Washington County towns. I didn't particularly see them or haven't made myself aware of them. So I'm very concerned with that. As I had worked in New York City for many years, I know the politics in New York City, and they're most concerned with New York City. I've watched for 40 to 50 years the voting in Albany, and the voting in Albany, the people that vote there are from the southern part of the state. They dominate the process, and they haven't looked out for the benefits of the town of Putnam or Ticonderoga or Schroon Lake. And I just like, we have to speak up for ourselves. I want to make sure that this town is getting not only what we deserve, but what we should be getting. There should be benefits for this town that we haven't even possibly thought of, because we're not in the big game like you are. With that, I'll do some more research and I'll come back to you if I have other questions in the future. Thank you.
I will answer that Daryl has a copy of the sheet. He can share the numbers with you.
Thank you, Dave. No other comments from the town hall that I'm seeing at this time.
Okay. We've heard from Putnam. Anyone from Fort Edward have a comment or a question?
I have comments and questions from Putnam.
Who is that? Would you identify yourself?
Yes, this is Lanny Oley of 428 County Route 3.
Okay.
I'm wondering how much does the town of Putnam or Mr. Bagnato expect that the project will negatively affect the property values for those who are going to have the transmission line buried along their route? And how many other transmission lines will be approved along the route as time goes on, as clearly there will be competing companies interested to tap the market in New York City? And also, at any point in time, will they be allowing sales by local solar generators, residents of the town of Putnam who's put up solar arrays that would like to sell power to the city? I'm also interested to know whether or not there will be infrastructure that is visible in the view of the lake at the end of County Route 3. Such as cooling stations or transmission stations, you know, your general chain link fence surrounded concrete boxes that are ugly to see. I'm also interested to speak to the fact that Mr. Bagnato referenced that he had made a deal with the Ole's, and we're not familiar with what that deal is, and maybe he could send us an email about that.
The only thing is we can
And
speak
that's
to
the
is.
end.
Go ahead. You finished, Laney?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. The only thing we can speak to in this public hearing is TDI and the transmission project in front of us. I think your questions on solar arrays and any other projects coming through, I don't know of any. I haven't heard of any. I think those are best addressed with the town board because lots of that is in their bailiwick and not in ours. But as far as the questions
I'm
you
just
had-
interested if Mr. Bagnato's company will be receiving solar generated in Putnam ever.
ask them to address that. Josh or Todd?
Sure, I can try to answer some of these questions. One of our proposals into NYSERDA, which Dave, you referenced earlier, would add a converter station. Think of that as an on-ramp for electricity in the Albany area. The idea there is to bring in probably solar power or likely solar power from upstate New York. Exactly where that solar power is located is not clear. It's likely not in Putnam, but it is in upstate New York. We have identified a partner for that, and they are developing several projects that could support bringing solar power to New York City, accessing the line south of Albany. So that hopefully answers that. Visible infrastructure at Putnam Station, the answer to that is no, it's buried. Question of property values. We've not done an assessment of any valuation differences. It's a buried line. There's lots of buried infrastructure in New York in front of houses, within roadways and railroads, et cetera, as well as overhead infrastructure like overhead lines. And so I think that answers the question I was asked.
I would like to say that also, is that TDI will be entering into road agreements with individual towns, and their commitment is to return the property that they disturbed to exactly the same, if not better condition. That will be negotiated with each town. Did I state that correctly, Todd and Josh?
Yes.
Yep, that's a requirement of our permit.
Did that answer the questions you had for TDI, Laney?
Yes, I think so. Carl, do you have any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I go back and say, Fort Edward, do you have any comments from Fort Edward?
No, Dave, we're all set.
Thank you very much. Hartford, day and a half.
Thank you, Dave. Dana Half, Supervisor, Town of Hartford. I'm located at the Hartford Town Hall. I have a question. It was mentioned that the useful life is anticipated to be 60 years. Is there any kind of a decommissioning component to this at the end of the useful life, or will it remain buried where it is?
So, hi Dana, the permit allows us, the permit that we have from the state in terms of decommissioning allows us to leave the cables in the ground. The theory being there's more disturbance to then go remove them than there would be to just let them be in the ground. There's no liquids, there's no fuels, there's nothing that can leak in these solid state. So the decision by the state was that it'd be better at the end of the useful life to just leave the cables in the ground and not pull them back out and cause that redisturbance.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Kingsbury, Dana Hogan.
No questions from Kingsbury, Dave.
Thank you. Fort Ann.
Yes, Dave, we're like, okay. Yes, no questions from Fort Ann?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Dresden.
No, we don't have any questions. You answered all our questions by other people's questions, so we're good. Thank you.
No, Whitehall.
I have a question.
Stephanie.
Stephanie Safka, 8 North Mountain Street, Whitehall. I'm looking at the payments, the pilot payments.
Okay.
It goes on for 30 years, but the life of the project is 60 years.
Mhm.
So is there any further payment after 30 years or no?
Well, normally the way pilots work, it's at the end of the 30 years. Then the tax assessor puts a value on the property in terms of that. And what that will be, I've had that question, and I'm sure there's no one in this room that can have the vision to see what that's going to be, what number it's going to be.
But potentially we can get more money. I'm not going to be around, so it's a difference. But 30 years beyond, the communities can still get more money.
Correct, it'll still be taxable.
Okay.
Unless the state enacts legislation that kicks in after 30 years.
Okay.
And this is one of the very important points where we discuss this, is that putting a pilot in place for the course of 30 years is that the payments are known to each community, the payments are known to TDI, and the commitments are that those payments will continue for 30 years. After that, we're not sure what the assessor is going to put in place. We're not sure what's going to happen. My recommendation to schools and everyone else who's asked me that same question, I said, you ought to put a big flag above your business manager's desk and say, in 25 years, start looking at what the assessment is and how you're going to make that transition from the pilot into your tax payments. And I know you don't have vision on that, but at least start then so you're prepared for it. I've seen pilots where they have waited to the last minute and haven't calculated that, and it's caused a lot of confusion. So that's my recommendation. Anything else? Thank you. Any other questions? I've covered all the 7 towns. Any other questions from anyone here?
Hold on.
Anybody?
Dave, I have a
Yes.
question for Dresden.
Yes.
Dave?
Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
Go ahead.
I was just wondering if we could get contact information for Josh or for you or whoever we have to, if a question did arise in the next couple months or the next couple weeks, so we have time to digest this, who we can contact.
You can go to Warren Washington IDA website, it's warren-washingtonida.com. My contact number is listed. I have access to get a hold of any of the individuals who need to get the questions answered. My direct line is 518-866-1022. Please feel free to call that number, and I can channel it through to anyone else.
Thank you.
Or you can call the IDA directly at 518-792-1022. 1312.
Did you get that?
Yep.
Thank you, Dave.
You're welcome. We're now at 7:11. I will allow the public hearing to continue for another 10 minutes unless people have, in case people have other questions or comments that they think of in terms of that. And I don't know if either Josh or Todd or any from the IDA or the towns have anything else they'd like to contribute. I just want to make sure everyone has the opportunity to speak and be heard. Okay, but this has been a long ride, and I'm sure that TDI and CHPE will be glad to have this over with in a positive direction, a positive manner. Then moving forward, because I think this is a good thing for the communities, especially when we can ensure the fixed values going forward for the towns and the communities. And it's very rare that you find a project like this who's going to contribute a lot to not only temporary construction. They'll look at, as part of the agreements they're looking at is to source as much materials from Washington County, as much labor from Washington County as they can. So we'll have the temporary construction. We will have the expenditure in local businesses of stewards and restaurants and everything else, because I'm not sure how big their construction crews will be, but they still got to eat, they still got to live, they still got to buy gas. So it will be an impact on the 7 communities and also Washington County overall. And as part of this, that we hope that the host benefit community packages are going to assist the 7 towns as well as the school districts in making some needed improvements in their communities as a total, as long as the value they get to help with their taxation, tax levies and budgets, and help reduce the payments to tax payments by residents. So we think it's a good thing. I know for 3 years or the construction process, there will be some impediments to the communities. Unfortunately, progress is good, and that will happen. Josh or Todd, anything else to contribute? Or
Just glad the owl showed up tonight.
yeah, isn't it nice? He's giving me wisdom.
I don't have anything else to contribute, Dave, except appreciate all the work and effort your county and IDA's put into this. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you all for participating tonight. I know it's a big effort to organize this group.
I see at least 1 school district involved, maybe 2 online. 1 village, Patrick D. from Whitehall. Is that Kevin Plunsey from Hudson Falls?
Dave? Hartford?
Yes.
I just wanted to clarify in the beginning when you read the notices, I think you erroneously read Hartford Central School District, which is not part of this because that's not part of the taxing jurisdictions. It's in the town of Hartford, but in the Fort Anne School District, not in the Hartford School District.
Thanks for the clarification. I was hoping to see the town of Hampton in here, but it's not here. I've been trying to divert so I go through the town of Hampton, but they just won't cooperate with me.
Gotta admit, Dave, it feels pretty good to be in Whitehall.
Yeah. Yeah. Whitehall's a pretty good place. Okay. Just for your information, we have 3 minutes left. The process from here is each taxing municipality will pass a resolution, hopefully. And by that time, we hope to get this done by the first part of August, so we can officially pass have the last hearing on awarding this pilot project to TDI, and with all hopes that within September, they will be getting their shovels ready to go, sharpening their shovels and ready to go. Any other comments?
Dave, I have one.
Yes, Dana.
Just something I just thought of. I was wondering if Josh and Todd could speak to the approval process and maybe give us an update on what that's looking like and how many other bids are coming in from around the state.
Sure, Dana, I think you're talking about the NYSERDA process specifically. So,
Yep.
Dana, yeah, it's a little, the connection's a little tricky, but so just to, Dave mentioned this earlier, but just to give a little more clarity, so NYSERDA, which really manages trying to increase renewable energy and moving it around the state, put out a request for proposals specifically for new transmission lines that could deliver renewable energy into New York City. Because as I said at the outset, that's really where the biggest need is at the moment. It's not because it's a big city, well, it's partially, but it's also because it's hard to get renewable energy there. It's hard to build renewable energy in New York City. So that request for proposal, we responded to in partnership with Hydro-Quebec, as well as a solar developer. And our bids went in on May 12th. The information we have is that NYSERDA will be making decisions on the winner or winners. There could be multiple winners in Q3 2021. So sometime this summer, maybe into September. Then if there are at least 3 other, kind of 3.5 other bids that went in addition to our bid, by other, large New York companies, NYPA, Avangrid, and LS Power. So it is a competitive process. We feel good about our bid, which is why we're spending a lot of resources seeking pilots and many other things that we're working on. And they'll make their decision in Q3, and we'll see how we fare there. Then that decision ultimately needs to be approved by the Public Service Commission, which is another step in the process. And then at that point, there would be a contract between the state and really the generators, not us, to move that power into New York City, which would then allow us to finance the project and construct the project. So hopefully that's more details, Dana, and kind of helps give you the schedule. Exactly when it's going to happen. All we have is really what's available to the public on their website.
Thanks, Josh. It does. I just wanted the group to understand. Plus, we needed 3 minutes to fill. You did a good job. Thank you.
Well, a little bit of history. I picked up a lot of history doing this. Indian Point, as we all know, the nuclear facility in New York City is shut down. That was a loss of 3,000 megawatts. There are a lot of aging generators in New York City that have to be replaced. So it is really causing a crisis because a lot of these green facilities can't be built in New York City. There's simply not the area, the avenue, or the ability to do that in New York City. So that's really driving demand for power to New York City to replace what's being lost. Indian Point was a significant loss to New York City, and that's already shut down, so the demand is already there. So thank you. We've reached 7:15.
Dave, I have one more thing from Dresden.
Where's Dresden?
I have Chris Deichel, Paul Deichel, and Elizabeth Shea in the audience. They came in while the meeting was going on.
Okay.
I know it's being recorded, so we're good.
Thank you. So if there are no other comments, asking a second time, or any other comments? Asking a third time, are there any other comments? If there's no further comments, I'll now close this public hearing at 7:16 PM. Thank you for attending. I appreciate your contributions, and anyone has any questions, you've got my number. And feel free to call me. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Out from Putnam.
Thank you, Dave.